Generally, the philosophy is really keep the exterior as much as possible the same as before, but then we re-engineered all the guts of the vehicle.
And I'm happy to report that almost all of my issues have been solved with the refresh. Stability, we're gonna go full off, of course. There's only one way to live. Just the way you can get this thing moving is amazing. Yeah. We also have a new 20-inch base tire. It's a 33-inch overall diameter Goodyear tire this time, an OE tire, of course, and seems pretty aggressive to be the standard no-cost option. I'm pretty excited about this.
To slide into launch mode, brakes completely pressed down.
Yep.
Steering wheel straightened.
And then it says release brake, ready to launch.
So even when you look at these two, we wanted to make sure that even when the images were static and you were in your drive mode, that we still had little moments of fun.
We eliminate this giant harness from our vehicle.
We have sort of the top spec, the R1S quad, says it right there.
This is like a new technology that will really help us to get that entire experience to the next level.
Because that's more than 10x more powerful than the previous compute, so it's really a huge step up.
This feels like a different vehicle. I'm not kidding.
This video is brought to you by StarCharge, the largest EV charging manufacturer in the world. They are also a provider of residential and commercial battery storage with microgrid solutions. Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video, and welcome to rainy Washington. Welcome to the new Rivian R1S and R1T. Rivian has refreshed their entire flagship model lineup, and in this video I'm going to walk you through all of the changes, all the improvements, really nerdy technical stuff. Of course, this is out of spec. You guys know I drive a Rivian R1T as my personal vehicle. I've done 50,000 miles in it now, driven it all across the country, off-roading, on track, towing, and a lot of the updates here truly are amazing. There's some misses, some things I would have loved to see, but overall, the entire refresh is very extensive, and I think you guys are gonna love this video. If you're a super nerd on electric cars and Rivian, I'm gonna make sure you guys know everything about all of the changes. Of course, we're in rainy Washington, I am drenched, and we are gonna go on a full tour of the updated Rivian R1S and R1T. Let's do it. This video is brought to you by our friends at Chesapeake Climate Action Network Action Fund. We've worked with them in years past to give away electric vehicles through their annual electric vehicle giveaway, supporting their awesome causes. And this year, the prizes truly have never been better. If you win first place, you can choose a Tesla Cybertruck or a Rivian R1S or a Rivian R1T or a Tesla Model X Plaid. But for the first time we've ever worked with them, they will actually have a second place prize of a Hyundai Ioniq 5, which is still an awesome car. Chesapeake Climate Action Network Action Fund is one of the leading nonprofits focused on decarbonization and cleaning up our environment. We love partnering with them. They're great people, and truly our viewers have won in years past, and I just had the chance to meet up with one who won a Rivian a couple years ago. It's just awesome. So all you have to do is head to evraffle.org. The tickets are $200 each. There's only 7,000 available, which means the chances of winning a car have truly never been better because they're giving away 2 EVs, so that's super awesome. So head to evraffle.org and thank CCAN for sponsoring this out of spec video. Guys, welcome to the R1S and R1T Peregrine, secret code name, refresh video. Rivian is really calling this a Gen 2 more than a refresh. They're referring to the old vehicles as Gen 1 R1T and R1S. This video, of course, is going to be a long one. Warning right up here. I'm here in Germany actually at the moment, and I'm going to layer in all the clips that I took while I was visiting the unveiling, the launch program that Rivian put together for the new R1T and R1S. I'll have interviews with folks like Wassym and his team, all the way to really a bunch of people involved at Rivian. My friend Mason, who's responsible for Powertrain. We go into nerd details on all of the updates. So long video. It'll be chapterized, and I'll make sure you guys fully understand everything that's new with the Peregrine R1T and R1S. So jump to the chapters if you want to, but ultimately I just want to start by high-level overview of what this update really brings. And it's a bunch of little individual components layered into the vehicle to make it a much more holistic package. Over 600 hardware changes, completely new suspension tuning and hardware for Rivian R1S. We all, even when we drove the R1S together for the first time in a video a couple years ago, we noted that the T drove better. The R1S was just a little bouncy, had some body oscillation and just weird movements. That is all pretty much solved. I still think the T drives better, but we'll get into the driving dynamic stuff towards the end of this video. We'll be on a rally course ripping them around, but I really wanted to focus a lot on road. A completely new driver assistance system with new compute, new battery packs on offer, a dual motor, tri-motor, and quad motor powertrain layout, new wheels and tires, new colors, new 1,000-watt sound system as their top in-house sound system with Dolby Atmos, re-engineered software as well with a partnership with Epic Games running an Unreal Engine. A lot of that actually will be ported over to the existing vehicles. So what you're going to see in this video is a lot of like software changes that actually will be backwards compatible with the outgoing models, and then some hardware stuff that's going to unlock new functionality into the future. For example, new headlights that support matrix functionality where you can black out a certain portion and they can open up more pixels while turning. That's a physical hardware difference between the old one and the new one. There's new RGB in the light bars. Oh, the list goes on and on. Truly, I spent 2 days with the Rivian guys and we did not stop nerding out. It was so much fun. I don't know how I'm going to put all of the info together in this video for you guys, but I certainly want to get as much as possible. And yeah, so let's just dig into it. I want to start all on the battery pack and drivetrain changes for the new R1T and R1S. So let's dig into battery packs on offer and motors on offer. By the way, I should probably mention the price right up front. R1S base price, $75,000-ish. It's $75,900. And R1T is just under $70,000, so $69,900. That is pretty awesome. And I'm actually a pretty big fan of the standard offering now. I think it's kind of cool. But again, this video is not going to be super cohesive. It's just a bunch of clips and little interviews that I had layered in. So forgive me if it doesn't flow as well as I would like it to. This was just sort of a last minute pouring rain shoot. It was very hard to get it in, but you guys gotta get the nerd info. If you hear a few things repeated throughout the video a few times, well, just deal with it. I really apologize, but it's all in here. Let's dig in. I've just popped outside. Hopefully the glare isn't too bad, but I can be a little bit louder and more excited here because I'm truly like, this is pretty cool stuff what we're digging into. And it's really awesome that we had the opportunity to attend this event. I was able to go and, I just have to give Rivian so much props for putting the people who are actually working on the vehicles, to get access to them and to talk to them. And it's really cool to hear how many of them truly watch our channel, enthusiast forums, other hardcore Rivian places, and try and make the vehicles better based off of customer feedback. That was really cool. And I would say, unlike some other automakers that say they take customer feedback and don't really do anything about it, Rivian takes customer feedback and then changes everything. It's pretty cool. Okay. Just to give you a high-level overview before we dig in, there are 4 drivetrain options in the new R1. There is a dual-motor standard, 533 horsepower, 610 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. That's what's in the base car. 4.5 seconds, 0 to 60, over 500 horsepower. That's base. Okay, we're not messing around. Dual-motor performance bumps it up to 665 horsepower, 3.4 seconds, 0 to 60. That's pretty freaking sweet. Tri-motor, which again, tri-motor will not start production for another few months, and it's only available on the Max Pack. We'll get into the batteries in a moment. Tri and quad, you need the big battery. But that's 850 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. So the new Tri is even more performance-oriented, more powerful, way better thermal longevity than the old Bosch quad motor system. All of these motors are done in-house. We'll talk a little bit more about it. The new motors are called the Ascent motors, secret code name, maybe shouldn't get out there. I'm putting it in the video. And I think people were thinking Ascent would be a trim, but that's actually the name for the new drive units. Just like Enduro was their dual motor unit, the tri-motor, it's not two Enduro units. It's a new drive unit for front and rear in the case of the quad, which is 1,025 horsepower, which is insane, and less than 2.5 seconds. I heard some engineers saying they were clocking in 2.4, low 2.4s, 0 to 60. I'm not sure if that was with or without rollout, but seems promising. Okay, we'll dig into that in a little bit more. So you got 4 drivetrains. Feeding those 4 drivetrains are 3 different battery packs. There is a standard battery pack that's a lithium iron phosphate battery. It's a different chemistry than the NMC packs that we've had in our trucks up to this point. We knew LFP was coming for the new one. Rivian's been using LFP in the Rivian EDV, their van, since January of last year. So almost a year and a half of LFP. And here, the standard no option pack is a 92.5 kilowatt hour battery pack with potentially the best charging performance. Now, the peak is not going to be as high as the NMC battery packs, the large and the max. The large and the max battery packs both peak at 220 kilowatts, which is just a little bit better than the outgoing. Maybe voltage is up. I don't know. We have to look into this a little bit more. But the standard battery pack will do 200 kilowatts and sounds like it'll just hold it for a while. That is one of the benefits of LFP is you can rip on those things for a long time as long as they're in a good temperature window. So and you can also full charge them. You can beat the crap out of the battery with less degradation. And 92.5 kilowatt hour usable is pretty good. And, you know, in our 10% challenge and our road tripping challenge, it should be really interesting to see how this holds up over time. It might actually be a faster road tripper, plus or minus. We'll have to play around with it. But I'm excited about that base pack. We have to test it. My understanding is they filled up the battery completely, the battery tray. These cells are made in China. They say global supplier. I'm guessing China. And I believe the modules and the packs come pre-assembled to normal. No tax credit with this particular one, unfortunately. Just won't qualify, maybe on a lease or something like that, but the battery minerals are not sourced here. Similar to EDV as well, those whole packs come shipped in. So standard battery, pretty cool, like it. The max pack, I'll get to large in a moment, is pretty much the same energy usable content as the existing max pack that uses the Samsung 53G NMC cell. 220 kilowatt peak charging, 141.5 kilowatt hour usable. Always remember that different drive cycles can pull out different usable capacities of the battery pack. So what they quote, you might do a little bit better, a little bit worse, but you're in that range. And that's very similar to the existing max pack. In some of the materials, you may read that there's a re-engineered battery system, and it's like, yeah, they move some cells around, some BMS, maybe some just minor cooling improvements with the new heat pump and a few other things, but ultimately it's pretty much going to be very similar to the outgoing max battery pack. Now, the large battery pack is confusing. Currently, the large battery pack is just over 130 kilowatt hour usable. They are quoting 109.4 kilowatt hour usable for the large pack and 220 kilowatts. There was no mention of a different cell other than the 53G. So what I don't know, and maybe I can get some info, is the large pack just a software limited max? Have they just switched to the new cell for everything? That would kind of make sense from a manufacturing standpoint. I'm guessing they haven't taken modules out because typically we would see a lower charging performance unless they kept the voltage the same, but 220 kilowatt peak charging on both large and max, just with less capacity in large. Don't know. Currently, they are not building any new large packs, which makes me think that the large is different than the outgoing model. Currently, the vehicles that are in production at the time of this recording are only R1S. They're not building new Ts in mass production. And the new ones are only the LFP standard non-performance drivetrain and the dual motor max pack with performance and non-performance. Both of those are being produced. So, yeah, large pack might be new, but those are the 3 new battery packs. You have an LFP and 2 NMCs. I'd like to input a interview that I did with one of the folks from Rivian who's responsible for R1. If it gets a little noisy around here, there's trucks driving by. Sorry about that. So let's dig into the whole nerd interview and then we'll get into the drivetrain stuff. Guys, you join me with Greg, who's the vehicle line director for R1. So a lot of the magic that we all experience with our trucks is thanks to you. Appreciate it. And we're going to talk batteries for a moment. You have 3 different battery packs on offer. And I'd love to learn, even before we get into what those are, what kind of the Gen 1 to Gen 2 changes are.
Yeah, sure. So Gen 1, we started with it's based on a 2170 cylindrical cell, and there's 7,776 per pack. And these modules are developed and assembled in-house at Normal. This is our Gen 1 module, our Gen 1 electrical architecture within the battery. So this is, our battery control systems, our power distribution systems within the battery. And so this is the Gen 1 module. So our Gen 2 module for our Max Pack, this has a lot of optimization for mass, for manufacturability, for thermal performance, based on the same cell as our Generation 1 Max Pack. And then this is integrated with our new electronic control suite inside the battery. So this is our battery management system, power distribution system. And then over there, you can actually see our large, this is the enclosure. There's a lot of optimization here for mass, for ease of manufacturability, leveraging a lot more, larger scale manufacturing processes like more high pressure die casting. And then I don't know if you can see in the upper corner there, the battery management system, all the electronics are serviceable from the underside of the vehicle, so shouldn't ever need to service any of that stuff, but if you do now, it's serviceable from the underside of the vehicle.
You don't have to drop the pack then.
Don't have to drop the pack.
Okay, awesome. And I think in general, my impression is these batteries are holding up really well over time. You were super conservative at launch and then opened up those windows over time. What's your impression on the 3 battery packs on offer? You have a standard, large, and max.
Yep.
2 using NMC chemistry,
Yep.
the Samsung 50G and 53G respectively for large and max, and then the LFP, which is super interesting to me. My understanding, it's the same cell that you use in the EDV, but totally different user experience.
It's not exactly the same cell.
Oh, okay.
But it's similar construction, similar chemistry. But yeah, so the LFP chemistry, it's great because it offers still really impressive performance and good range at a lower price point, lower entry point into the product. So that's great. And then for our like higher range configurations, of course, Max Pack using the NMC chemistry that's what's getting us up into the into the 400 mile plus range.
What's your impression on the daily usability of LFP? Are you recommending customers to full charge them? Are you saying to set a lower daily limit? Well, how does that look?
I would say in general it's similar. I think the thing I would note with LFP is, and this is just a general regarding the chemistry, it's a little bit more sensitive to temperatures. And so, especially if you live in colder climate, it's nice to leave it on plug overnight.
Right, keep that battery temperature maintained, offshore power.
Well, yeah, and just within ranges that aren't really, really cold. It's just a little bit more sensitive to the extremely low temperatures. And so all of our thermal control systems, our software platform is always optimizing for what's the right amount of energy to keep all of the components, but battery is a big one of them in that nice performance range.
And for cooling on the LFP, so my understanding is you have that central plate cooling still here in the module for the NMC cells. This one being a single stacker, if you will. Is it just bottom plate cooled on this one?
No, there's heat extracted within, in between the interface.
Very cool. Interesting. So in terms of like rapid charging and charging sessions one after another, do you expect similar performance between the chemistries?
Yeah, the nice thing about the lithium iron phosphate chemistry in general is it's a little bit higher mass, and so for the same amount of energy, you have a little bit larger thermal mass, and it actually makes a difference on those big charges because it acts like a big thermal mass, a big stabilizer, a big heat sink.
Yeah.
So even if you're going through a fast charge, the pack temperature actually has enough mass there to absorb the temperature increase that would come from the resistive heating.
Oh, cool.
And so, yeah, I just did a cross-country drive in our standard pack.
Oh, nice.
And as far as, battery thermal performance issues, I mean, it was repeated drive, DC fast charge, drive, DC fast charge. And so,
same performance all the way. In terms of peak charging speeds on the LFP, it's somewhere around 200 kilowatts, is my understanding.
Yep.
And then at what point would you say you appreciably come off max? Is it at 30%, 50-ish?
I would say I don't think we're going to talk too detailed on the charging curve, but it'll hold a very high charge rate over 50%.
Oh, wow. So
but then-
promising for this one then. Because I think a lot of people are going to be a little bit nervous going with a standard pack, but from my viewpoint, it's like, this is the pack that works for 90% of people.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, a lot of the things where people have some anxiety about the lithium iron phosphate chemistry, a lot of that does come down to temperature sensitivity. And again, the whole ecosystem of the car is keeping the pack in the temperature range it needs to be, and not just all the time, but when you need it. So things like conditioning the pack when you're arriving up using our navigation system to a charging station, the couple with our new heat pump, like a lot of this is trying to figure out what's the right energy to spend to keep the battery in the right range at the right time you need it for DC fast charging or driving. So,
and you'll still use the motors to create waste heat even with the LFP pack to precondition?
It depends on, a lot of it depends, like it's really an optimization for energy consumption. So we have a heat pump, we have, for example, the ability to create heat with the motors. With our new heat pump system, a lot of this is figuring out where do I want to pull heat from, where do I want to send heat to in the most efficient manner.
You can heat scavenge anywhere in the vehicle to anywhere.
And that optimization is really, like that's when you're really getting into the how do I maximize miles for the available, it's really the available energy I have on the vehicle, whether that's thermal energy or electrochemical energy.
It's all music to my ears. Sounds pretty cool. Thanks for the tour on all of the updates. Appreciate that. I'm up just to try and avoid the glare. That must be so annoying to watch. I'm sorry. Anyway, motors. There are essentially 4 drivetrains configurations that you can choose. The first is pretty much carryover from the existing outgoing dual motor systems. However, there have been some improvements to the dual motor system from the previous generation to the new generation. The first and most important is that actually there's more isolation mounting in between the, sort of chassis and the motor. So there's a lot less noise that transfers into the vehicle, and it's immediately apparent when you get into the new R1S or R1T dual motor. It's pretty much dead silent. Previously, you'd hear some motors. Of course, now if you go wide open, you will hear it, but it's just so much quieter on a day-to-day. The second is actually the way that the clutch disconnect mechanism works is pretty much carryover from a mechanical standpoint. But a lot of the calculations are now being done on the inverter, which means it can spin up quicker, it can engage with much tighter tolerances, which means a lot of the clicking of the disconnect and reconnect that I felt, at least when I drove dual motor for the first time, is pretty much gone. Now, I believe they have software improved the clutch disconnect and reconnect even on the outgoing vehicles since the last time I drove them, but I just noticed how, yes, I can feel when it connects and disconnects the rear motor on the new, Peregrine Refresh R1. However, it's just so much more refined and so much smoother than the outgoing model. And if you're doing sporty driving or towing or in the snow, you will keep that disconnect all the time working. So it's still a rear motor disconnect, runs front motor primary axle. It has a taller gear ratio for cruising. You can get more regen. I still would have preferred them to disconnect the front motor, but I get why they did that. And anytime you're driving sporty, the rear motor is engaged and you're good to go. So the dual motor, aside from those changes, is pretty much carryover. You pretty much always get the silicon carbide inverter on the front axle and then the IGBT in the rear. I believe on the old Max Packs, they were doing dual silicon carbide. I don't think they're doing that anymore, but this is just minor minutia and doesn't really make that much of a difference. Let's talk tri and quad motor. By the way, the dual motor, the reason I say that there's 4 drivetrain configurations, you can option it with and without the performance software upgrade, which is just a software flip of a switch. What I don't know, and there's a chart that I'm going to overlay, is if you can get the LFP battery with dual motor performance. Going for performance also unlocks some more drive modes and some other things like that. It's not just a motor tune, and I believe that can be software upgradable at some point into the future, plus or minus depending on configuration, but it's just a software situation. The tri-motor is really interesting. On the front axle of the tri-motor, and I'm gonna let Mason mostly explain this in an interview, it uses the silicon carbide dual motor inverter, or entire powertrain. So the front of the tri-motor is identical to the front of the dual motor. This brings in the new dual motor in-house unit, similar to the Bosch unit that was in the quad motors originally, but now everything is oil cooled, including the dual motor and tri and quad, all oil cooled, much better thermal capacity. Thermals are not really nearly an issue at all based off of my initial test here, which is awesome. Even ripping them around the rally circuit, everything stayed cool. That is totally different than what I experienced with my quad motor. Very thrilled. But that new dual motor drive unit uses the big, juicy rear motor that has much better stall torque. So like from an off-roading standpoint, you know, I would complain about my Rivian getting held up and one motor not having enough power to go from 0 to 1 RPM to get me up and over the obstacle if I only had a single you know, wheel with traction. Now shouldn't really be an issue. It can go, you know, it's got the incredible stall torque performance, thermal performance, and yeah, very cool. I believe IGBT in the rear because again, the front motor is the primary axle. They'll have a dual disconnect. Mason will explain a little bit more. Dual disconnect on the rear, the tri-motor, and that's kind of the sweet spot. In an off-roading situation, it will use the brakes to transfer torque cross-car on the front axle and then use the individual motors to transfer, or I should say just add or take away power on the rear axle. So really cool tuning, really neat implementation of all of that there. And then the quad motor, which isn't going to launch until next year, and I personally have not had a chance to ride in that vehicle. Other media have, so check out like my friend Tom's videos and others for the launch performance of the quad motor. Seems really spicy. I had to leave the program early because I'm actually driving to Asia in an electric car. I'm at Porsche headquarters right now, and I'm taking a Taycan to Istanbul, driving over the bridge from Europe to Asia. Should be crazy. But quad motor sounds insane. They basically use that rear motor of the tri, and then they have a smaller, more efficient version for the front axle, which I don't think they've decided whether or not they're going to do silicon carbide or IGBT for that particular one. And it's just going to absolutely rip. The quad motor uses the same brakes, the same suspension as the outgoing vehicle, but much wider tires, 275 front, 305 in the rear, Michelin Pilot Sport S5. New tire, really cool stuff. We'll dig into that as well. But that's not going to come out till, again, probably January. It sounded like December, January, February, and my guess is might be lower priority than that for these guys. So yeah, let's let Mason walk you through all the drivetrains, and yeah, seems pretty cool. And of course, the range of the vehicle, I'm going to put up all the ranges here and like the charging stuff, everything Rivian quotes. Up to 420 miles, as low, I think on the low end, 275 plus or minus. Anyway, plenty of range. To me, it's all about charging performance, road tripping. They all have enough range to get your day-to-day stuff done, even in the coldest of temperatures, I think. Mason, how's it going, sir?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing well. So we're talking motors, powertrain variants. You have 3 distinct powertrain variants for the new generation, but the dual motor has 2 software versions, is my understanding.
Yep.
So can we start at the base one and work our way up?
Yeah. So brief history on how we got here. We launched in 2021 with a quad motor system. We really wanted a big breadth of performance between on-road and off-road capability. Wanted to come in with a halo aspirational type product and really show the world what's possible with electrified propulsion. Fast forward to last summer, this came into production for both the R1 and the EDV vehicles we make. So in the case of EDV, one of these goes in the front. In the case of R1, 2 of these goes in the vehicle, 1 in the front, 1 in the rear. Some subtle differences between front and rear around silicon carbide, different gear ratio, and a disconnect going into the back. But that allows us to have a 2-motor all-wheel drive system in R1 and kind of stretch the vehicle platform down to a lower price point. Still
and
great
even
performance.
Like improving thermals with it too, because it's oil cooled. Like the dual motor system is like kind of the silent ripper.
It is.
Dual performance, they move.
Yeah, it definitely punches above its weight class. So it, along with bringing the motor in-house, a design choice we made in doing so was to go to an oil-cooled machine. So we're actually spraying oil in and around the stator and actually through the rotor as well to keep the magnets cool at higher speeds, and then at low speed, high torque especially, keep the stator conductors and laminations cool.
So that will be on all of the variants. So I guess dual and tri, let me think about this. We'll have this as your primary axle.
Yep.
And then, so you'll offer the same carryover dual motor system from before into the new year.
Yep.
Which, like, the clutch disconnect seems smoother, which is probably just software tuning since the last time I drove it.
Yeah, there's some subtle changes. We also brought like speed matching and disconnect control into the inverter, which speeds up the clocking rate. Okay. And that's as of this Gen 2 kind of phase change introduction. So
will that be backwards compatible?
That is a hardware change.
Okay.
To the inverter, subtle one, but a fun one.
Yeah, that's really neat.
but largely the performance you've seen since last summer with the dual carries forward. And then the new exciting shiny thing in the room. So
Yeah.
this is our 3rd generation family of drive units coming to the market. Comes in 2 flavors, a rear drive unit and a front drive unit. You can see the physical size difference. So along with like carrying forward the motor technology in terms of oil cooling and kind of design techniques we found to be successful here. We really leaned into the attributes of learning from what we did in the 1st gen quad motor system, and kind of big level attribute takeaway is that most of the performance demand comes from the rear drive unit, where from a on-road standpoint, weight transfer sends all the weight back. So having more torque and power at the rear is beneficial. That's where the grip is.
Absolutely.
And even for off-road, like rock crawling, you're typically struggling more to go uphill than downhill. So again, weight transfer dictates more performance at the back. So we leaned into that and said, all right, let's increase the length of the rear motors. We have 110 here versus 85 in the front. And unlike the previous quad, there's different gear ratios. So 11.7 in the rear, 9-to-1 in the front. That allows big time torque out of the rear, about 25% more than the outgoing quad rear drive unit. And then with that smaller motor, smaller ratio system, this leans more into efficiency. It still has all the capability you'd need to do both on and off-road events, and with the oil cooling, really good thermal performance and duration in those events. But again, with a smaller motor and lower ratio, more efficiency than the outgoing system.
So this will be your primary axle 100% of the time, always engaged.
Yep.
Under normal drive operations, is this engaged at low speed?
Depends on the mode. So in some modes, it's a full-time 4-wheel drive lock, similar to the previous
So
quad.
that would be like towing, off-road,
Towing,
sport.
Yep. Yeah. Snow mode, I believe, also. Conserve, or the efficiency-minded modes, will be primary front-wheel drive like they were in the past quad system. But unlike that system, we will use Auto Connect, which if you've driven the dual, you got some taste of how that works. But basically, on accelerator pedal demand from the driver, we can recognize, hey, the demand is going to exceed what this front drive unit can support. And without driver engagement or mode changes, it speeds up the rear, connects, and then you have the performance.
So you're using IGBTs in the rear, so not silicon carbide, which makes sense because this is not really your efficiency motor.
Right.
But then have you decided what you're doing on the front yet?
Not yet. No, this is still a few months away from production, so
Okay.
still going through
Silicon
final.
carbide, my vote.
Yeah,
We'll see. That'd be cool. Do you know
Yeah.
the kilowatt output of each one?
they're roughly 215, and of course depends on voltage and how many of them are drawing at the same time. So you can actually get more than that. I believe we rated the full system to be capable of 1,025 horsepower, but individually each motor can actually do more than 1/4 of that. So it's all about the draw and battery temps, et cetera, et cetera.
Amazing. Very cool. So then the last thing we just haven't touched on is the tri,
Yeah.
which is pretty self-explanatory. It's just this rear with that front.
Exactly. This display makes it easy to describe. So you have 2 motors in the rear from this big 2-motor rear drive unit, 1 in the front. It's a really strong performance proposition because you disconnect the rear, you have the same single motor driving you in both the dual and the tri, which means when disconnected, you're within 1 or 2 miles of range of equivalence between the tri and the dual. So you kind of get the range of the outgoing dual system. And with this being a larger rear drive unit than the previous quad motor vehicle, that tri also gets more performance, at least straight line, than the outgoing quad. So you get 2.9 seconds 0 to 60. With the range of the dual, it's a really sweet spot in terms of jack of all trades, kind of please everyone type drive system.
Hell yeah, I'm really excited to try it, and thank you for the tour on the motors. I know we're out of time, but thanks, dude. That was epic.
Yeah. All right.
Just a couple last notes on charging performance. The first is there's a new CCS charging port that no longer has the ring around the outside. This was a little bit of a cost savings thing. I'm going to be really curious to see if the DC pin temperatures also stay cooler, because that was a notorious issue with Rivian vehicles where they just always had the hottest pin temps out of any vehicle I think we've ever seen. So that was kind of interesting. I mean, it would pull 500 amps, but there just was some inherent heat buildup into that charge port, which led to a couple issues from time to time. So new supplier, There's also an eject button in the port. I'll show you that here in a little bit, but that's how you get your charging indication light, is now on this little tiny button. And then of course you can hit the eject button to stop charging. Same as basically hitting stop charging in the screen of the R1 before. You can see the light bar around here, this being the old charging port. These were notorious for getting really hot pins from this supplier. If I show you the charging port on this one, you can see no more light ring around the outside, different supplier. I have no idea really why this is here. The only benefit I can think of is if you want to stop charging, you're not going to hit the button on top of the CCS connection, which would break open the contactors under load, which is not great for them over time. So I always hit stop charging on my truck or the charging station rather than just ripping down on the CCS handle. But you can now just do that, hit the eject, and it will do a vehicle request stop charging. It will ramp down charging power, and then it will open the contactors. So I guess there is a small benefit there. I should also mention that charging performance is the big miss for me here. I think 220 kilowatts is not enough charging speed for a refreshed vehicle launching in 2024. We're talking the LFP battery pack currently charges at about 32 minutes, 10 to 80%. That's pretty good. And I was talking to Wassym, and he mentioned they're going to try and get it down to 26, 27 minutes within 1 month's time. So I think that LFP battery is going to rip. And the nice thing is you just don't have much voltage sag over a discharge curve. So once you get that thing charging, it can just sit flat out on the amperage. Sounds like it has the thermal capacity as well. That's going to be good. The NMC packs, though, even though the cooling's been improved slightly, they still will have that gradient heating temperature issue. And it just really is at the maximum of what that thing can do. Maybe small optimizations, but you would have to go higher voltage and a much higher capacity cooling system for the battery pack modules in order to go higher power. The reason higher voltage is just because 500 amps is the limit with Tesla superchargers at the moment. Of course, they don't support high voltage either, so they're kind of maxing out what's possible on supercharger access with NACS. And also, most public charging stations do not go above 500 amps for CCS yet, but I think we'll see more 600 amp, 700 amp connections coming into the market over the next year or two. One last point on charging, which is the native NACS port. This is not launching with native NACS, but I think actually maybe even at the end of this year is kind of the rumor the vehicle will get a native NACS port. So I would expect around that 2025 timeline to see native NACS. I'm sure as things unfold, as suppliers become more available, we'll start to see that, but I'm really looking forward to native NACS and to see how that integration works. You guys join me with Luke. Luke is responsible for vehicle dynamics at Rivian. So Luke, my understanding is the suspension for R1S has been updated for the new refreshed vehicle. Can you walk us through what changes you made and what the vehicle attributes will change? Or
yeah, of course. So for Gen 2, we've changed the whole ride and handling package really has been optimized for the R1S in particular. And we've made changes to primary ride, so mainly through spring rates, increasing the rear spring rate, lowering the front spring rate. That gives a better sort of primary ride control, but mainly pitch balance is the thing we were going after.
And when you say pitch balance, that's like that body porpoising going down the road?
Exactly, the sort of fore aft like rocking behavior that you get if you go over sort of sequential bumps in the road. Mm-hmm. With the shorter wheelbase for R1S and the different weight distribution to R1T, it drives its own unique set of hardware. So that's why we differentiate the hardware set between the two cars. On the secondary ride side, so road texture, the sort of constant buzz or vibration you get back through the seat, we've made changes to our damper, but also the bushings and the top mount rate, so all the rubber components in the suspension, just to try and isolate the driver and the passengers a little bit better. That all sums up for an overall like more complete ride package. So driver and all row occupants get a more comfortable ride experience. Really a big step over Gen 1 for the Gen 2 platform.
And for R1T, did any of these changes make its way over? Because R1T always drove amazing in my impression.
Yeah.
Did you just leave it the same, or?
For the most part, like I say, part of the mission brief was to optimize the two vehicles in their own right. So the spring rates and the primary ride changes are unique to R1S, but some of the secondary ride things I mentioned, the bushings and the top mounts and damper calibration, so we have a huge software capability in the car, they're all new and refreshed for R1T. And So that still sees a lift. R1T customers aren't being left behind. They're seeing a big improvement as well, but just on the secondary ride side.
And how about from the hydraulic roll stiffness perspective? Is the tuning the same, the parts the same? Have you made any changes?
So we still have the hydraulic roll control system, but it's again unique now between R1T and R1S.
Oh, interesting.
And the R1T, as you sort of alluded to, we're really happy with the balance there, front to rear. For R1S, we've optimized that again. So we made some changes to the rear damper. The damper is sort of critical in both the hydraulic roll and the regular
So it's a
damper.
different part number for R1S than T now.
Correct, yeah. And that gets the roll balance forward in R1S to try and help with some of that rearwards weight distribution. Introduces more stability into R1S, makes the performance for R1S a bit more accessible. It's really fun to drive. We haven't given up any of the performance, any of the capability off-road. It's just way more fun.
Hell yeah. Well, I can't wait to experience it. Thanks for walking us through the changes.
Thank you.
If you're curious, this is the new heat pump right here. So you can see a little bit of a heat exchanger situation. You have just a really compact unit. I don't know how many kilowatts it is. I would like to get that answer as to how much thermal power is in here, but the new heat pump just looking very cool. Just try and get you all angles so you guys can really see what I'm seeing here in terms of your connection points. Yeah, what a nice looking unit, and certainly all in-house. No more PTC heater at all in the Rivian. It will use the front and rear motors to run inefficiently to create waste heat to heat up the battery pack, and there's heat scavenging and just a really nice new thermal system. It is so much better than the outgoing.
Charging, or when you first plug it in, it gives you that indication of something that you can basically tell. It's a fun little thing that gives you a little extra detail that as you're walking up to it, you kind of know where you're at from a charging perspective. Say, you know, you're pulled over somewhere and you're charging, you're eating, and you just want to quickly walk up to the vehicle. You see where it is, you're able to do that. Of course, also your mobile app does the same thing, but this gives you a visual appearance of that as well. Do you want to show roadside lighting, see? So you can see another thing we did here, aside from the roadside lighting, is where our fog lights used to be are now our turn indicators. Because of our new headlight system, we're able to get the same amount of light, actually more, without the need of the fog lights. But one of the biggest benefits of being able to move the turn signals down to the bottom there is, if any of those familiar with R1 and some of the legal requirements, the turn signals were in our stadium shape. So what that meant was when these turn signals came on, we had to dim the overall DRL. Didn't love the look of that. It almost felt like the lights were surging a bit, because legally you have to make sure that the turn signals are brighter. So you'll see a lot of vehicles, that's what they do. They either turn off the DRLs or dim them. So now with them being separated, we don't actually need to dim the DRL. It's on the UI screen, so I had that little UI demo, but we can also show you inside the vehicle. Basically, when you get into—
All right, Jeff's going to show us how these 22-inch arrows, the cover comes off.
So right where this yellow is here, one obviously tells you where the valve stem is, but it's also a great place to pull on it to release it. So once you pop it out, you can just kind of get your fingers in there and work your way around it.
Super nice. And that's it.
And that's all you need to do.
Amazing. And the wheel underneath looks super cool, dude.
So we wanted to make sure it looks good both with on and off. You kind of get a 2-for-1 wheel on this. So that way, if you decide to go off-roading, you want to beat it up a little bit, you can take it off. Or if you just want it for looks, you will lose some range by taking this off. But I also really love the way it looks. And to put this back on, it's actually a lot easier than it is even to take off. So once again, you want to make sure this lines up with where the valve stem is. And basically just line it up with these teeth are. Push it in.
And what would you say roughly the efficiency gain would be by having it on? Do you think, I mean, we're talking percents, single digit percents here.
Yeah,
but
I mean, if you think from a full charge, you'd get easily around 2-3 miles of range from that. I mean, it's not significant, but it's a small amount. And
yeah.
For us, every mile of range counts. So it is an area of efficiency for us.
And how much do these wheels cost in the configurator?
So I believe these are a $2,000 option upgrade.
And it's interesting that you're going with a 20-inch as the standard wheel, which looks pretty damn good as well. Can you walk us through all the other wheel designs?
Yeah, so this wheel here is our base wheel. Now it's a 20-inch design, and this one has a 33-inch OD. We purposely designed this one to look a little bit more rugged, kind of like the AT, but this is a very balanced wheel. So it is more capable for some light off-roading, it's got better dynamics on road, and it gets you a little bit more range. That it's more efficient than the 34-inch that everybody knows.
But it's
today.
fairly aggressive still out the box. Like that's not a, you're not messing around with this. You could still do a trail on it.
Yes, exactly. Not as capable as our 34s, obviously. These are definitely a dedicated AT tire. You can see the tread pattern is a lot more aggressive. The sidewalls are a lot blockier. Also, obviously, the diameter of this is larger. This is a 34 versus a 33.
So do you have to calibrate the speedometer differently for them as well?
No, once we know what vehicle comes on there through our software, it
nice.
knows. If you changed it yourself, then yeah, you'd need to just get the software updated. But for us, we don't have to do anything because we know it.
And that's the same as the outgoing 20-inch.
Yes,
No
so
change.
The outgoing 20 inches have not changed for the all-terrain package. It's only this new one that we have.
Okay.
The 21 is now gone. We don't have the 21. So our range performance tires are both the 22-inch Sport Bright and the Sport Dark, which will remain the same, and then this new 22-inch range tire that we have. Now the tire on this one is an updated Scorpion that we work with Pirelli. So gone is the old one that you got on the 22s. This one has the same on-road performance. It's a good all-round, all-season tire. But this one's got a lower rolling resistance, so it has better range than the previous one.
So can you still option the 22-inch Sport Bright and Dark?
Yes, you can.
And does that come on the new tire?
Oh,
nice.
Come with this tire.
Okay.
So those wheels still exist. They come on the new.
So this is everything that's available for the new generation
Yes,
then?
and the last one is this one on the end here, which is on the quad motor. These wheels are staggered, so the front wheel is an inch wider than the rear wheel, and the rear wheel has a 305 with a tire and a 275 on the front. And these are with Michelin Pilot Sports 5S's, and that's how we get our 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds and a quarter mile in 10.5. And they're very grippy tires dedicated for on-road performance.
I also just learned this is a 3D printed rubber tire, which is crazy. I just talked to some of the tire engineers. There are some of the guys, yeah. And so this is now a tread wear indication. It's like a whole new thing. You'll notice there's no nubs on the side of the tire like you would get in the mold release right here. So you don't have any of that with the 3D printing here. It's really cool. It's totally unique.
And Michelin has this nice little velvet pattern that they do on here, the really dark velvet pattern there, which gives it a really nice appearance.
Looks good, looks super sporty. And you went most aggressive fitment as well. Like the way this thing sits is like...
You'll see that the quad motor, the rear wheels do sit out a little bit further, which gives it that really nice aggressive stance. But you can still option even with the quad motor. You can get the off-road package, which will come with the tow hooks. It'll come with the 34-inch tires. So you can have it sort of two flavors. If you want something that's very quick and fast, or if you want something that is more off-road capable, you can have either or.
Amazing. Well, thanks for the full tour. Appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you.
You guys can see the sensor suite on the vehicle right here. There's radars here in each side of the vehicle, as well as a long-range unit right in the center. The ultrasonics have also been updated in comparison to the outgoing vehicle. All of the camera locations have changed just slightly, higher resolution, and they claim the most amount of resolution per vehicle out of any current vehicle on sale in North America, which is pretty cool. Just nice to have this little representation so you can see the sensor suite. You have actually a washing camera in the front and rear of the vehicles as well, with a washer on that. So I think that's pretty neat, and overall looks cool. I mean, that's just a sweet little sensor overlay. And of course the functionality all comes from what's on this chip, which of course I'm going to put in more info on these NVIDIA chips and everything that's going on this board. But just super cool how Rivian has all of this laid out for us to take a look at. Guys, you join me with Kyle. Kyle, what are you actually responsible for? What's your job title?
So I'm Kyle. I'm the director of electrical systems. So I'm responsible for architecture.
Amazing. So you are the architecture nerd here at Rivian. Hell yeah. So what we have on display, my understanding is these are all of the generation 1, so the original R1 sort of ECUs, not every single one, but a large sampling. And then how you've sort of packaged them down into individual, I would say almost larger modules. But you could speak to this way better than I can. So what are we looking at?
Yeah, so we got our electronic control units here, which are essentially our car computers. These are door controllers, vehicle dynamics modules, body control modules, seat controllers. And essentially in our Gen 1 architecture, every ECU's performed a very specific function. So our vehicle dynamics would control accelerator, pedals, torque distribution around the vehicle. And so you had wires that would go from this, which was located in the front of the vehicle, all around the vehicle. So kind of the same story with all of these different controllers, you had an octopus of the harness. So in going from Gen 1 to Gen 2, we were able to consolidate that into what we call our West Zone, East Zone, and South Zone. So now instead of wires going from front to rear, they actually go to their local controller, and then they're networked across the system. So things in the rear will go to the south, things on the driver's side will go to the west, and things on the passenger side will go to the east. So we got to reduce from 17 unique ECUs down to 7, along with a lot of component reductions. You can see we reduced the fuse box here. I went to E-fuses, which are effectively, silicon MOSFET fuses. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. So okay, you took this much weight out of 44 pounds roughly out of the cabling.
Yeah, so 600 wires, over 600 wires reduction and 44 pounds of mass. And then what's really cool, we were able to completely eliminate this giant harness from our vehicle. So this was on the dash, and with our new architecture, this is just completely gone. So I don't know if you can see how much I'm straining to lift this.
I held it earlier. It's pretty damn heavy. It's pretty crazy. And we also spoke a little bit earlier where, of course, you were leveraging heavy Ethernet previously. You're still doing the same now, but because you're able to compute so many things at the exact processor level and then split it by cores, am I kind of correct in thinking in that direction?
Yeah, so now let's say our West controller has vehicle dynamics, it has body systems, it has thermal systems, lighting, all living on the same processor through multiple core allocations. So we're able to kind of all share within the same processor and optimize. So if messages need to be transmitted between different systems, they're done via RAM. So
amazing.
You don't have to communicate all the time across the different controllers.
And it just should free up a lot of communication line in the vehicle, so much less loss that's going around through everything. So yeah, I mean, to me, this is pretty amazing. This is your infotainment and ADAS controller right here.
Yes.
And this is the only liquid cooled one.
Yeah, right. So everything else here you see is passively cooled. This is liquid cooled due to the high compute, the 200 plus trillion operations per second. And the 10 times more compute. So this stayed liquid cooled with our infotainment processor and our autonomy compute on the other side here. So they share a home because they both want cooling.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate you showing us all of this. I love that you're using E-fuses. I love that you've just reduced a bunch of parts count. To the end user, maybe this isn't going to make a huge difference, but it's just cool to know what's going on behind the scenes. And like, this is so much cleaner, so much, I think, better sorted than whatever the heck was going on here. This is very traditional in the way that you did it. Was it hard to get the suppliers over to do this type of thing?
Well, this is all done in-house.
Amazing.
Right?
Cool.
So, all of this was done in-house. Our entire, Rivian is completely vertically integrated. So we define the features, we own the full software stack, base software layer, and the hardware is designed completely in-house. So you're able to do this because of that. While, other OEMs struggle to completely consolidate, we can do that pretty easily.
Amazing. Well, congratulations. Love to see it. And of course, can't wait to play around with it in the vehicle.
All right. Thanks, Hal.
Guys, here we have sort of the top spec. The R1S quad says it right there. How sick is that? And you can tell it's the quad because they have a little gear guard thing here. Although, honestly, every Rivian owner is going to throw that on their truck. So don't use that as a telltale. You can definitely look over here for the quad badging. And of course, these blue accents around on the front and rear caliper. Also has a specific wheel. You can option all terrains, but this is, sort of max performance spec. So you're running a, like I mentioned, a 3D printed tire, which is really cool. I'm not exactly sure how they do that, but you can see there's no mold release nubs. 275/50 R22 up front. The most amount of aggressive setting, as you can see if you look in the rear there, just look at that freaking offset. They've pushed it to the max legal limits. And an over 300 millimeter section tire in the rear, a 305/45 R22 with the specific wheel design. Really neat. Still running, of course, a 5-lug setup right here. Nothing really changed to the hub, but and the braking package looks to be pretty similar as well. Over 1,000 horsepower, 1,025 horsepower in this particular one. Same drive modes as the outgoing version. Let's just pop in here. I'll show you a couple screens. This is the new interior trim, by the way. Can't remember what it's called. Maybe I'll overlay it on the screen, but just a beautiful interior package. Light headliner as well. Really, really nice in here. If I come to this one, settings about this one, 124 miles on it. R1S Max, 22-inch Super Sport. Doesn't really say anything about it being, maybe it doesn't have the like quad motor stuff in here. It's called Quack Quack the R1S. How about that? That's a good name. Absolutely love that. But this interior is gorgeous. If I come to the drive modes, just to show you, on-road, key, I think you can service vehicle to change. Ooh, motor fault, early pre-production stuff here. What the heck is going on? I don't know. Yeah, okay, can't show you all the different drive modes, but it has pretty much the same as the outgoing model. So here you have your 4 motors, obviously not finished tuning. It's not freezing in the motors right there, but it'll give you, very similar to the outgoing quad motor displays that we have. Nothing really new in this particular one, and all the drive modes as the tri-motor, no change here. So over here we have some of the new interior trims, and so here's Forest Edge plus Brown Ash Wood. I don't believe this will be available at launch. However, Rivian did say they were going to cycle through the production run, maybe different color, different trim. I think this was here just to show the previous color option of Forest Edge, what I have in my truck. This is really cool, the Ocean Coast plus Driftwood. It's not too dissimilar from the Slate Sky plus Walnut Wood. That's what's in this quad motor right over here. And I think this is a pretty cool looking interior. The wood definitely has this really rich tone to it. I think it could be an interesting option, and I hope a lot of people go for that one. And if you want just sort of a black interior, you can go Black Mountain plus Brown Ash Wood. I think I would have preferred the darker wood from the outgoing models rather than this brown wood personally. I'm not a styling guy. You let me know which ones you like, but these are some of the interiors that will be on the new vehicle. And then of course you have the old Black Mountain plus Dark Ash Wood, which I think I prefer. You have the old Forest Edge and Ocean Coast plus Dark Ash Wood, which I still think I prefer to the Driftwood combination, just my preference. Some of the badging here, you have a bright pack and a dark out optional. The dark out is standard on tri and quad motor, but it can be deselected to go back to the bright package. I don't know why you would do it. I think the dark out looks great. And then only on the quad motor do you get the little gear guard, which will be in the bottom right-hand corner of the R1S or R1T to signify the quad motor setup. All right, y'all, first time driving the new refresh. We're in an R1T tri-motor. This is Mason. We've got a Honda Fit backing up over here. Gonna try not to hit them. And dude, so tri-motor, which means we have the entire new Gen 3 in the rear.
Yep.
And then the front of the dual motor.
Correct.
Up there.
Yep.
So what's cool is you still show like powertrain, power split and everything.
Yes.
Yeah, check that out. That's sick. So we'll make our way around here.
26th Avenue Northeast.
And it's the first go in the refresh. So you've been driving these trucks quite a bit. We're in the tri. How would you say the tri-motor fits in? Like, who should buy the tri-motor?
I don't think there's a bad apple in the bunch.
Turn right onto 26th
So the dual motor comes in and still has great performance. And until now had a leg up on range over the outgoing quad system. The beauty of the tri in my mind is it's kind of that sweet spot, the have your cake and eat it too option. So because we always disconnect the rear drive unit, you do have this big powerhouse of a rear drive unit in the back. In the case of the tri, a big 2-motor system. but we physically decouple it. So you're able to disconnect the half shaft from each output gear and turn off all the losses associated with that big performance system. And when we've got the rear disconnected, you're powered by the same single motor front drive unit a dual motor R1T would have. So you're within 1-2 miles of the range of a
That's awesome.
of a dual.
Yeah, there's like no downside other than cost, but then you get performance, so of course it's going to cost more.
Yeah, it's just kind of bumps out the attribute circle to
and I guess from an off-roading standpoint, you'll still have to use the brakes for cross-car, like torque vectoring on the front, but on the rear, you'll do powertrain
torque
control.
vectoring.
Yep. So right now, is the clutch connected or disconnected in the rear?
Connected.
Okay, because we're in all-purpose, normal cruisy cruise mode, and if I click the button, we can see. All right, cool. So I'm gonna just nail it because why not? So let's see how she gets off the line. So do you still do power limitation by suspension height?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, so if we lower down, we'll get more juice.
Sport mode is always your best bet for the most juice, and we'll have some other fun modes we're gonna demo tomorrow, maybe out of town, but there's
you got
some
launch mode.
Launch mode, yeah, where we really, you know, hunker down suspension wise and enable the full performance. But yeah, in general, as you raise it up, especially at speed, you got to be mindful of stability and then half shaft durability concerns as the angles come up.
Yeah, so what do you think about, you know, we've spoken a bunch about my quad motor half shafts ticking and stuff, and there's been some service campaigns to make them better. What do you think about the longevity of the half shafts on these? Is that problem now gone?
Yeah, I would say so. Like with the launch configuration, we had some, you know, learnings as we grew up in the bin count. Those have been resolved even prior to this launch for the FDU from a hardware perspective, and then new for Ascent, the tri-motor system. We basically use this larger torque rear drive unit. We kept the same hub size. We were mindful of efficiency and not tearing up the chassis and with a larger wheel bearing. So to fit that much torque in the rear of the R1, we moved to a face spline. So it's you know, held together by a bolt, and by definition there's no backlash in that system whatsoever. So
amazing. That's what we needed.
Yeah,
so I'm so happy to hear that. And you know, of course, all the low speed calibration, even on this this is obviously using both motors, but like it feels the same in sort of that low speed one pedal drive calibration. All feels super great. You blend in friction brakes pretty early just to, I think, maybe take some of that minor motor tuning out at very low speed, which is unusual because a lot of car companies will do like motor till where the motor gives up and then blend friction, where you're like, even at maybe like 1 mile an hour, we're on friction brakes.
Yeah,
and it makes it so smooth.
Yeah, we try to bring it in, you know, really gently or seamlessly.
Yeah, you do a good job, and you can, you know, kind of see the pedal pull in and pull out just maybe that much. It's not unusual to the driver.
That's like the biggest indicator, right? Is like if you were watching this, you wouldn't really know when one thing's coming in or out.
Yeah, so yeah, from my perspective, like the tri is kind of cool. The quad's going to be amazing, but we discussed earlier as well, like the benefits of that quad motor are going to be really in rock crawling situations and straight line acceleration. Whereas, you know, if you're just trying to drift, like the tri-motor probably drifts almost as well as the quad motor does.
We'll see today. Today's a great day. We'll be at Dirtfitch, so yeah, you can be your own judge of that. But yeah, it's the tri is definitely a big value proposition in terms of performance and efficiency.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna basically cruise over to Dirtfish, and that's where we're gonna spend time in the R1S. The primary focus of this video is on R1S, just because that is where the suspension's been upgraded mostly. This feels very similar to an outgoing R1T, just driving it. The seats feel the same, even though there's like some stitching differences. But like little things like NVH, just driving over in the R1S sounded better. Like lots of little improvements everywhere that make it a really nice package. So we are gonna merge on the highway up here. I'm just gonna throw it into sport really quick. And actually, is it this turn?
Over there.
Oh, right over there.
Yep.
I mean, you're an out-of-spec viewer, you know I'm really bad with directions. So we'll get on the highway, we'll get up to highway speed. I wanna lock in on the new Driver Plus. Do you still call it Driver Plus?
I believe it's called
Oh, Rivian Advance.
Rivian
I know it's not your department, but
Yeah,
it's
no,
called
sorry.
something. Yeah.
We'll get the right folks to comment.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll try it out. And there's also cameras now that pop up for your blind spot that are really nice and useful. It's a feature that like even base Model 3 has and Honda Civic has had for a while. So I'm just happy to see that here. I'm so used to having that from driving Teslas often, where I can like look, check, you know, even if you have a trailer or something, it seems like it's wide enough where you're able to see behind, because it's all the way out on that mirror. So that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. The cameras in general have all been upgraded, so
yeah,
just both the functionality of them, but also the image quality is improved.
Hell yeah. Well, let's go for that inside pass on a super greasy surface. The ML's kind of getting it though. Look at this dude. Hell yeah. A little bit of power. Sorry to freak you out there, but I just had to try it a little bit. So it's kind of cool. Like I was just rolling in gently, and then it was like outside motor figured out what I was looking for.
Yep.
Corrected. Awesome. Just stayed in the throttle the whole time. And I thought that was really good tuning for like having ESP full on. It lets you have fun.
Yeah.
That's great. I really like that quite a bit. And with R1T, everything happens so slow. You can kind of just hold it, get more and more angle, grab lock. It's so easy to drive this thing. And that just felt, that was like going from this much throttle to that. This is spicy, dude. This is awesome. Hell yeah. Guys, you ready to experience some auto lane change action? So conditions are obviously pretty bleak at the moment. A lot of rain, a lot of fog on the road. I'm going to basically let us get through this corner. I still think there's a lot of fine tuning that needs to be done with less lane wobble, having the car centered in the lane. I noticed it yesterday as well, even on perfect dry pavement. But I'm going to initiate a turn signal, so I've selected it. The vehicle's found an open space in the left lane. Once it finds that space, it's very deliberate about getting over. And these are all the things that can be tuned and changed over time. I'm going to select going into the right lane now, and the vehicle has found a space, and it's moving over. Very nice. I just kept my hands on the wheel in case anything happened. But of course, this is a system where you do have to keep your hands on the wheel. It is a capacitive wheel, which is nice, so you don't have to tug at it or do anything. It still doesn't really allow for in-lane repositioning. It's very similar to Tesla Autopilot, where you're locked on or you're in manual control. And I think the big news is for the driver assistance system, not so much the functionality today, like we discussed. It's what all of the new hardware and software stack will allow into the future. City streets aren't really a priority, but it's all just focused on making those highway drives so much more relaxing, and you know, mapping more highways, which is so key, because even the roads near me in Fort Collins are not mapped at all. So I don't really use Driver Plus in my truck very often. And my request to the team here on the video and in person was, let's find a way to get non-pre-mapped roads just basic lane centering. I mean, plenty of cars do it. I'd love to see this do it here. And you can see we're on the outside of the edge for the truck. We're kind of wobbling through. Oh no. So I can't wait to see future software updates improve this system. It needs massive improvements, but at least it sounds like we have the sensor suite and the hardware suite. It's all of that fine-tuning software that they need a ton of work in, especially just off of my initial drives right now. Bank just went for a rip. Hell yeah. All right, y'all, while they're doing their laps, we're going to get everything set up. We're going to go drive around this sort of W course, just a lot of loose surface, a lot of drifting action. Should be kind of fun. I think what we're probably going to do is run rally mode. Again, this is the tri-motor variant R1S this time. So it's my first time driving the tri-motor R1S, and it'll actually be on this track, which will be super fun. So I think we'll go ride, feel firm, just to give it a little bit more stability. Regen high. I'm a big fan of as much regen as possible. Also, just to get the weight on the nose, get it into a corner. Should be pretty cool. And stability, we're going to go full off, of course. There's only one way to live, and that is the way. I think that's probably how we'll have it set up. Perhaps after one lap, we'll try drift, maybe. Although I really just love the rally tuning in my truck. It's a little bit less overactive on the rear motors and just helps with forward momentum, which is what you want in this surface here. So yeah, we'll get the cameras on, go for a quick rip, but this is how we're all set up. Pretty high state of charge as well, 83% state of charge, ESP off. Let's send it. All right, into drive. Let's go rip this thing, folks. Hell yeah, R1S. They let me have it to myself. What were they thinking? Here we go, rock and roll, baby. Let's roll. Dude, it's so easy just to slide it around. The tri-motors are silent. Oh, nice motor noise. Hard on the brakes. Let's get it in. Little throttle. Use that outside rear motor. You just stay in it. Oh, so easy. Yeah, you can have so much fun. ESP still cutting it a little bit there. Absolutely having a ball. Yes, let's get it going, folks. Max angle, baby. Yes, let's get it into the corner. Here we go. Oh, so good. I love Rivian so much because you can absolutely hoon them around. Get on the brakes. Oh, braked a little bit early there. I kind of messed up the entry. All good. Yes. Oh my goodness. What more do you need? Be cool to have maybe a front locking diff of some kind, but you can see I'm just kind of neutral steering it here in rally mode. Hard throttle, get it around. So good. Little tire action. Nothing that wouldn't hurt anyone, and we're good. And there we go, a fun 2 laps in the R1S. How sick was that? Damn, they really know how to like tune these things to be unbelievably fun. So very enjoyable, and first go driving a tri-motor R1S on a course like that. Well, that is not a bad day at work. What other electric SUV can do stuff like that so competently, be so comfortable? And of course, when you need to hit the throttle, just roast all the tires, even on that wet pavement there. Just absolutely love that. Big thumbs up in the fun department, I would say. That's what Rivian does right.
The hole at the other end, the mogul. Yeah. And see what happens. So yeah, a little bit to the right, just a little bit. There we go.
Yeah, there's the green pop up.
Amazing. So yeah, and then that regen catching you on the way back down. Yeah. So it's nice. You can really experience a good one pedal experience in this car for this trail.
Max, how's it going, sir?
Oh man, hard day at the office right now.
Today really sucks. Yeah. So we're in a tri-motor R1S.
Yep.
And we're gonna go send it around a course.
Yep, we're in rally mode.
You've been ripping on this thing and the motors are chilly.
Yeah.
So do you pre-chill the motors or run them harder?
No.
It's just good thermals now.
Just good thermals. Yeah. The oil cooling is a game changer.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I've been really wanting to see that. Of course, dual motor has even better thermal longevity than the old quad.
Yep.
Now you bring in that new, 3rd generation drive unit. What's your impression of that drive unit?
Oh, it's insane.
Okay.
I mean, it is like, yeah. So we're driving a tri.
Yep.
And for my money, it's a tri, because then you get the really good fuel economy, or the
efficiency,
but then you have just insane performance when you need it. I mean, the dual rear motor is like next level, because the power curve also extends much higher into the velocity range. So your like highway passing is much improved. I mean, I have the original truck.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, I have to get it.
Yeah, I have the original truck as well, and I drove the Tri R1T up here, and I was like, oh shit, this is really nice.
I know. I have the 10th truck ever made.
No way, that's amazing. No, keep that thing.
It's been 0000010.
That's amazing. Well, you got to add to the collection.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so we're in rally mode. Interesting, you kept it in soft on the suspension.
Yeah, it's getting a little rutted.
Okay.
Because as we pound through here, so I actually personally like a platform that moves around a little bit more. As long as it's linear and you can control it, I prefer that.
Yeah, get some body motions on it. So yeah, the viewers are looking for a full send run, right, so we'll do it.
Let's do it.
Man, that rear digs, doesn't it? That's awesome. Dude, epic. Over the concrete. That was awesome.
For a little bit of drama.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the way you can get this thing moving is amazing.
Yeah.
It's interesting you have to stay in the throttle a little bit to get the torque vectoring to work.
Yeah, you'd have to just... Well, a lot of it is just getting that weight transfer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting the front end to bite, and then you can play around with the rear.
Dude, this is so freaking cool. Yeah, buddy.
So it's that weight transfer, right?
Yep. And are you just matted through there?
Yep.
Yep. Hell yes.
When it hooks up, you really pick up speed.
Dude, it fucking rips.
Yeah. It also rotates nicely on the brakes.
Yeah, and then gets rutted.
Yeah.
And now we've made it angry.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Thanks for the ride.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
So we triggered a max plausibility thing in the ECU where we had a bit too much yaw, went into save me, bring me home mode, but that just kind of reset itself and cleared. And that's just some tuning that they'll work on over time. So that's what they're going to do right now, I guess, is make sure it's all good. But they said that'll get tuned out, and that's just like front ECU, rear ECUs, a little bit out of phase. Makes sense. They said they've been seeing it a bit out here. My R1T will do some really interesting things if I do something crazy with it. I've shown you where it goes in a park if you spin it around while moving, but I think they've even tuned a lot of that stuff out. So anyway, really fun, amazing what that R1S can do. I mean, the powertrain is amazing. The balance is so much better than before with the new suspension, and you can absolutely haul ass in these things. That was absolutely epic. What an amazing ride. That was great. So let's run through all of the software differences on this particular vehicle. Now, the functionality will come through an over-the-air update, like a lot of the design stuff. I think looks pretty similar. HVAC controls are a little bit redesigned. You have like presets here. We'll get into all this in a moment, but my understanding is most of what we're looking at here is actually going to be backwards compatible. I actually need to grab the key for this vehicle. I keep going to grab a normal door handle, but it's just the button. And right up on the roof is the key. The key tap is here now. It used to be, you know, on the door. That sensor is gone. This is where you tap the key. Makes so much more sense. Really enjoy that. By the way, the wireless phone charger works so much better. You put your phone in each slot. Totally works. I have an iPhone 15 Pro Max, and whenever I hit the brakes, though, and the phone slides all the way up here, it loses connection to the wireless charger. I was like, oh, dang, they just couldn't get it totally right. If they just put a lip here and stop the phone from sliding, or honestly, even if you just put something here, it would be fine. But as soon as the phone slides up this way, at least for my iPhone 15 Pro Max, it lost connection. So definitely better, definitely works. It's not cooled, but it definitely works. But this is kind of a non-grippy surface. You can hear it's a little plasticky if I rub my nails over it. And so the phone just slides forward. Software. So let's go through and see if we can find any differences. So display brightnesses all looks roughly the same. Accent lighting, you can now choose different colors, and they come with even little noises. So canyon glow, desert snow, glacier fog, forest valley, alpine lake, twilight trail, and we're back to the beginning. I would probably go desert snow. I like a white light typically, similar to the outgoing R1s personally, and you can turn off the audio effects if you don't want those, of course. And I just love the little graphics that are moving along in here. This is just so cool how that is going. I noticed how the truck I drove up didn't have automatic wipers, but this one does, and you have 3 levels of automatic. That's been something they updated even back to my R1T. So much of this is coming backwards to the existing vehicles from what we're seeing now, but the new platform, the new software stack allows so much headroom of new functionality that not everything will be backwards compatible into the future, is my understanding. So you have liftgate lighting brightness, high beam assist. Also, this one will have digital matrix lights. Eventually, it's just not legal at the moment, but they're going through certification. There's that light bar while charging, which is pretty cool, and they actually have separate lighting inside the light bar. There's the charge port light when locked. The charge port no longer has a light around the inside of the ring. I believe it's actually just that little light right there, that little eject button. There's no more ring around the charge port, just a cost savings thing. Everything, like I said, not everything is great, not everything is improved here, so a lot of it is also to reduce cost, but as far as I can tell, there's really nothing that feels cheaper about this new model, except for maybe some of the door handle stuff. I don't really mind them too much though. Let's see what else we have here. Kneel vehicle upon parking, entry exit. All of this seems pretty interesting. You can shut off power hood and power lift gate. Again, I'm not sure how many of these things are totally new because I drive an R1T and some things are like power lift gate is R1S only. You have driver plus options here, so they still do call it driver plus in the new one. Automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning, all this looks the same. Park assist, rear accessory mode, all this is the same. Units look the same as well. I love how they show you your predicted range and percentage on the display. That's carryover from previous. We're on 2024.19.0, and this is an internal build at the moment, so it's not going to basically show us what's going on. This automatically install updates. That's cool, nice. And we have wiper service, tire change, show and tell. All of this looks roughly the same. Let's go into service mode. And let's see if, we can pull up the Ride app. Go in here. Let's see if there's anything different. I think it's all going to be roughly the same as the outgoing Rivians. I don't expect to see much difference. The one that we're in right now is a dual motor. I don't know if it's a dual max. I think it is. But it's loading ECUs. There we go. Yeah, so some of these things, again, it's just not totally going to be perfect because, this is still a pretty early truck. But if I come here to service, dashboard, let's just see if any of this stuff, all of this looks the same. Yep, maximum temperature, battery current, battery voltage, all of our nerd menus, all still the same. Pretty cool. Love to see all of that. So we can just turn off service mode there. Good to go. Vehicle shipping, very cool. So all that looks the same. Everything in here, pretty much no change at the moment, except for now you can use your watch as a key because it uses ultra wideband communication. So you can use a watch, you can use your Apple Wallet, and also works with some Google phones as well. And you can share them to really as many people as you want. You can just text your key to someone using the Apple situation. This one is a Dual Max Adventure on the 22-inch Sport Dark wheels. Okay, so that's all the settings. In terms of functionality, let's go to navigation. I'm pretty sure all this looks roughly the same. It will show you Tesla superchargers that you can use with the official adapter. So, it can go here. Quincy, Washington, we can navigate. It should automatically precondition as well if the battery needs it. Let's take a look. We'll come over here, swipe this way. Yeah, it probably should precondition. This is all 3D now because it's running on the Unreal Engine. So you use 2 fingers. I don't think you can zoom, but you can just shows you that things are happening. Really cool. You can even see a little windmill spinning in the background a little bit. Absolutely love that. And so you just navigate to Tesla. That works pretty well. Let's check the route planning. So if I want to go to Fort Collins, man, it just feels a little bit snappier than my truck. I think the processor's been upgraded for this as well, but it just feels a little bit sharper for everything that I'm doing. I'm pretty impressed. And again, I think this is a good base system to then build even more over-the-air update functionality, which Rivian is already doing an amazing job of. Look at that route planning right there. Absolutely love that. You can see here it's going Electrify America. This one probably doesn't have the Tesla adapter. Yeah, adapter needed. So we can say, okay, we have the adapter now. I wonder if it would look different if I recalculate the route, but either way, it's getting us there. Electrify America. It'll, the charging score, it will tell you the average top speed. It's routing us to chargers that are of high quality based off of other Rivians using them, except for this Yakima, Washington EA. I've been there. That's definitely not one of my favorite chargers, and Rivian sees that as a B. But because I didn't tell it I had the adapter, definitely didn't want to do that. So we can go hide adapter needed because this one doesn't have the adapter in it. In terms of music, there's now Apple Music built in, although this one is not equipped with it, I guess. This one also I don't think has the Max sound system in it. I believe you get a metal speaker grill if you get the Max sound system. But Apple Music is coming with Atmos functionality, so Dolby functionality is cool. This one being a dual performance, you get sport mode, snow, all-terrain, and soft sand. No separate on-road or off-road. You also have the specific trailer situation. And wow, look at this, 7,000 miles per kilowatt hour. How far could you drive? That would be like infinity, basically. So that's a funny calculation. But again, this is early software in an early truck. We're in Neil right now, which I believe targets low ride height. And of course, you can go stability on, push to hold to shut it all the way off, just like we were, just like before. Slightly different inputs. All of this is roughly the same. Being a dual motor, it shows you the temperatures of both. If it's a tri, it will show you tri. If it's a quad, it will show you tri motors over there. So it all works pretty well. The cameras have been massively improved. Let me show you some of those. So you have a front view, you have your rear view, of course you have a bed view if you have an R1T, you have your 360 cam. It's just way nicer, way higher resolution, really nice, of course. And I absolutely love that, at least when I'm in drive and I put the signal on, these pop up. Now these side view cameras, I'm not sure if they'll be updated to the early ones. I'm guessing not, but I really don't know, to be honest. They are a bit warped and a little bit weird. I almost hope they could do like an image correction factor so it doesn't look as warped in the images here. Definitely enough though where you can see if there's a vehicle behind you or in your blind spot, so it's not that big of a deal. The shifters also changed a little bit. So you go into drive by pushing down and you pull back to activate the cruise, or you push away to cancel. You can of course push up to go into reverse as well. So some of my friends are over here. I'm going to let them have this truck and then we'll continue. You can see just more texture, a little bit changed design. This light bar definitely has a 3D element. It says dynamic adventure light right up in here. And you have those charging indicators and the emergency roadside flashers right in here. And there's 10 sections across the front of the vehicle right there, which is and then here you can see the new R1S, this one having that sort of dark package that goes around. Really nice material here. It's not quite gloss black, but it does look good. And you can see the back of this as well with those dark badges, looking very similar to the old one, just with this dark trim around the bottom and everything like that. Just to show you again the old one so you can see them sort of. There's the new one, here's the old one. Very similar, almost the same light bar in the rear. The only thing you get are those additional 10 lights underneath the light bar. For example, here, you just had that green glow single bar that would be underneath. In the new one, I can show you. Also, the turn signal style's a little bit different. I actually think I like the old one better. You can see the individual light segments on the new R1S. But honestly, if you're rolling up on one of these from behind, you're probably not going to see much of a difference. And you may not even know what's the old one or the new one unless you really know what to look for. And really the only things you could look for are the dark badges, but a lot of people upgrade the old ones with the dark badges and just the lighting segments. I think that's going to be the biggest giveaway, but you got to get so close to see those things side by side. So yeah, very, very similar between the two. Running back into the software section. Yeah, I think we've kind of covered most of it. Those folks had to take that one, but just to double check everything with you. Yeah, charging menu is identical. They still recommend, a 70% daily charge maximum, and that's just better for the battery pack. Like I mentioned, I always keep my truck at the lowest possible. They are doing, for an event, they're charging them to 95. You really do just want to limit the amount of time they spend at 100% state of charge. The climate is the most interesting new thing here, and it's a new interaction point, and it's very graphical, I would say. So let's go down on the fan. What's interesting is I'm the driver controlling a lot of this. If I was the passenger, I could just hit this button and that whole menu will pop up over here and you'd get the same mirrors, dog mode, fan, so you don't have to reach over. So you can just choose which side. Love that. Wassym and the software guys are just amazing. They really know how to build a great software package, perhaps the best software package for any vehicle as far as I'm concerned. You can of course now touch in certain areas to activate certain vents and functionality. For example, heated seats, you get 3 levels right there. You can choose, and of course you have your cool and hot that you can adjust right here as a pop-up. I absolutely love this rather than going in the menu to have to adjust. So this works really well, a nice improvement. And I believe all of this will be coming. Also, spoiler, tri-zone climate control coming, not initially at launch, but through an over-the-air software update. So you could keep the back of the car frozen for the dogs or for the kids, and then the front cabin normally. R1T will also get tri-zone, and it's not just for the new heat pump cars, it is also for the existing vehicles out in the fleet. I think that is super cool, something I'm very much looking forward to experiencing. Now, that's just my understanding. That's what I've been told off the record, on the record, I don't know, but I'm putting it in the video, so I'm telling you. And I just think that's going to be a really cool, exciting upgrade. There's 2 presets that you can save. So for example, I can adjust the vents over here and then save preset to A. And then I can say, okay, I have a different preset. I can go to, or I should say, you go to B, adjust, and then you can save preset B. I love that. I just love the optionality. I think that's really a wonderful feature. So very thrilled with the new climate menu. You can also control the middle row, very similar to how you could in the old version. And then of course the third row, very graphical here. I'm not sure how you would do it other than touch the vents. So there you go. It just makes so much sense. Absolutely love this improvement here. Very nice work to the Rivian team. In terms of other functions, that's pretty much it. Most of the stuff is just improving over time. Can't say enough good things about the Rivian software, the functions that it brings. I really love this roadside lighting function as well. So cool, where you can, you know, put on those hazard lights. Yeah, this is great. All makes sense. Outlets, it's all there. Same inverter, by the way, from the old car to the new car. It's bright out. Use hazard lights instead. Huh. Interesting. Cool. In the rear screen, something I haven't shown on the channel yet is actually the new display in the rear, but it comes to all vehicles. You have heated seats for second and third row, which is very cool. So I can go here, third row heated seats if I want to. Works pretty well. 2 USB-C ports here, USB-C port there, ports everywhere. Love it. And, you know, you can even come into this climate menu and adjust the fan for the third row, go full max, or for the second row. All works pretty well. You can adjust some lighting back here as well. Bluetooth, your hotspot connection. You can even QR code to your hotspot. It just makes so much sense, works pretty well. And you have, you know, your outlets that you can turn on and off. So a lot of nice functionality back here on the display. Hey, Wassym, welcome back to the channel.
Kyle, how are you?
Doing well. This is an epic event. We're having so much fun. Congratulations on the launch.
Thank you. Isn't this an awesome color?
Yes, so tell us actually about the color. It's called Slate something? What is it?
This is called Storm Blue.
Storm Blue,
the exterior,
that's right.
which is available with our Tri and the new quad motor. I mean, the Tri, this is crazy fast. We're talking 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. The quad motor is just silly. Quad motor is 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. More than 1,000 horsepower and quarter mile in 10.5 seconds.
Yeah, quad motor is going to be insane. I'm unfortunately going to miss this trip, but all the colleagues will have fun, and of course we'll talk about it with Tom. Can you talk to us roughly about some of the software changes to the new updated vehicle, some of the architecture? You know, I want you to just share what you think is important. This is your world.
Awesome. So as you see, I mean, obviously this is a new color that we really love. You'll see also the interior here, really fantastic interior from our design team. But generally the philosophy for the update is we kept the exterior pretty much the same. I mean, our customers love the exterior and the design of the vehicle. There's changes mostly in the lights. You can recognize that. Also now the lights are RGB, so we can do all sorts of animations. There will be lots of fun for the next Halloween, both in the rear and then in the front lights as well. But generally the philosophy is really keep the exterior as much as possible the same as before, but then we re-engineered all the guts of the vehicle. And a lot of the changes are around efficiency, but it's efficiency while providing much better experience in pretty much every single aspect of the overall features of the vehicle. There's a ton of features that we can go and talk about. I think really the ones that I'm really super happy with. We have a new suspension for the R1S where we have lots of fun now while driving, but then much better handling, much better ride comfort. We have a heat pump, and this is something I'm sure, Kyle, that you will enjoy. Heat pump, better cabin control, but then better efficiency for cold weather, which is really important. This allows us on the R1T and the R1S now to have more than 420 miles of range with our dual max. So really a great addition. Then the compute and the sensor suite in the vehicle has been upgraded to absolutely next level. 10x our AI compute, 8x resolution for the ADAS cameras, 3x resolution for the surround view cameras. And it's not just resolution, it's also the camera quality, it's the low light performance. We have introduced the blind spot view. You will see it, you will love it. It's one of my preferred features. And then lots of other changes behind the scenes from an architecture standpoint. I mean, some of the changes that are really dear to my heart. I mean, phantom drain has been a big topic. We have done lots of improvements on R1, on Gen 1, sorry. Gen 2, we're doing an architecture change where now we're improving, significantly improving the phantom drain when gear guard is off. But then also we have a clever architecture change where we're improving phantom drain when gear guard is on. We will reach what we think is best in class in the industry for phantom drain when gear guard is on. So this is one of the really quality of life improvements that we're super happy and super proud of.
Amazing. Well, I mean, it just seems like all these little changes that must have taken so much time and effort and refinement. And maybe we can go inside and you can show us some of the UI, UX improvements, because this, Wassym, as you know, is not my, this is not my area of expertise. So I rely on a lot of what you find here as to what's important to your customers. And my impression as an owner is like, this is already the best software I've ever used in a vehicle. So how could you make it even better?
Thank you, Carl. I mean, we can make it better. A lot of it is the great feedback that we're having from you, from our owners, who are really part of building the overall experience. One of the big changes that you see here is this beautiful aesthetics now that we have in the vehicle. This is a partnership with Epic Games. So we worked very closely with their team so that we use Unreal Engine as the 3D graphics engine behind all these great aesthetics. I love these subtle animations. You see here, it's actually a vehicle model in 3D.
Wow, it's not just an image.
It's not an image. And obviously you can see how this technology enables us to dynamically configure it based on the vehicle model, but then also the tires, the wheels, all the small details. And we love that attention to the small details that our customers see. This is our new UI for drive modes. This is one of the really great apps that our customers enjoy, and now we're taking it to the next level.
That is so cool. Just that animation to switch between was amazing.
And this will be context aware, so you can imagine at night it will be a different animation, and you can already guess all the fun that we will have in the future, because imagine we can show you what's happening behind the scenes in your suspension, in your torque distribution. This is like a new technology that will really help us to get that entire experience to the next level in a way which is useful, but then joyful and playful, which is really how we want to connect with our customers.
So how much of this will come to the previous R1?
So this UI, it will come to the Gen 1. I mean, obviously Gen 1 customers are extremely important for us. They will continue to get updates. There will be at some point in the future probably a fork, because this machine has fantastic compute. It has many more capabilities, so we will have much more fun on Gen 2 in terms of pushing the boundaries of the different features. But as far as this update is concerned here with this UI, we will have it for both Gen 2 and then we'll have it for Gen 1 as well.
So even with the Unreal stuff where you can do all this, that will go to Gen 1?
That will go to Gen 1. But
wow, that's cool.
But then in the future, I mean, obviously Gen 2 will have many more capabilities, similar to what we will do from an autonomy standpoint. Now with this amazing compute that we have, 10x AI, 8x resolution for the cameras. We're introducing the Rivian autonomy platform, and like this is really the start of developing our in-house stack, which is AI and prediction based. And there will be a whole roadmap of features for Gen 2 where we will use all that amazing compute.
So I know you can't talk future product too much. Can you give us any hints as to what this can unlock? Like, what do you mentioned, okay, maybe some drive mode stuff. You can show torque distribution. You kind of already do that here. What, can you give us any hints?
We'll show more. We'll show you what's happening behind the scenes. Like, this is a fantastic suspension system, for example. I think it would be awesome for our customers to understand really what's happening for our suspension, what's happening at each wheel. Like, we can control each of the wheels separately. There's so many things. We'll get that. We'll have another video with you, Kyle, to show you all that exciting roadmap.
Amazing. I mean, just as a user, having battery temperature was a huge input. I think it also helps drivers understand cold weather performance and other things. And a lot of this is educational to people. And I think they've really learned a lot by driving a Rivian, just about general electric cars and how they work. So more of this nerd stuff would be really appreciated.
Absolutely. Completely. And just a small scoop, we're working on an energy app based on a lot of comments, Kyle, from you and other reviewers. We want to make the experience of owning an EV as easy as possible, as peaceful as possible. So we want to create more education moments around how do you drive, how do you charge, what do you expect in terms of your charge metric. We'll have lots of fun with that.
Yeah, I mean, even just the charging integration where you now rate DC fast charging stations has been amazing, where, you know, you can click on, you know, a station, for example, and because this one doesn't have the adapter, it will tell you, hey, don't go there, but maybe you can go to a different one, and you can see rated A, which is really cool.
Exactly, and I think we should probably plan for a small video also at some point. I know we had really great interview when we introduced the charging score. We actually now start seeing the statistics. I mean, since we rolled it out, there's an increase of Rivians visiting chargers which are rated A and B. That's a great win for customers. It means that we're incentivizing the right behaviors in the industry, taking care really of that great charging experience, which is absolutely foundational to owning an EV.
Yeah, it's amazing as a Rivian owner, just knowing that the station is A, you can see, even if you go to details like the average max power. For example, this is a 150 kilowatt maximum station and the average charging is 160. Like, that's awesome. That's really cool. And it's just great to have that confidence getting to a charging station.
Exactly.
So nice work on all of this. The new truck seems amazing. Thanks for all the time you took to spend with us. And what I'm really excited for, of course, because a lot of this will be carried over, is the new features into the future on what you can unlock.
Absolutely. And you see here, cameras, for example, are really one of my favorites. I mean, the resolution is better, but then you see here, like, it's raining. It's fantastic weather. This is the weather that we need for the R1 to experience them in really like such natural terrain. But you see this image quality that we have here, which is fantastic. One of my preferred features is the new blind spot view that I really love. I mean, this is a game changer when you're driving. This has been on the top request for our customers. We spent a lot of time to have the right design and really do it in a way where it adds that value. It's not distracting for customers. So we're super happy to introduce it, especially with such really high quality cameras.
Well, again, big congratulations. I think we're all thrilled to experience this, the new cameras. The camera for the side view, will that come to old R1?
It will come to all R1s as well. Obviously, the camera resolution is not there, as you know, but it will come to Gen 1 as well.
So the functionality will come, but if you want the sharpest cameras, you got to pony up, get the new one.
If you want these beautiful, you see this color? This is like, this is so awesome. I mean, this is great.
I mean, it's like a real image. There's a little bit of a warping effect, but you can easily see what's happening to the side of you.
Exactly.
Really nice.
All right, so for launch mode on the Tri and the Quad, we're bringing in the launch experience. So when you click on the flag, you have the Yeti to slide into launch mode. And once you get into it, you're now setting up. You're in the staging part of it. So it guides you through the entire process. So when you do a
press brake, we're not going to obviously launch it into another R1S, but press brake to launch.
So it goes through the steps. So you have your brakes, steering, and your axle. So once you have your brakes completely pressed down, steering wheel straightened,
and then it says release brake, ready to launch. And so does it precondition the battery and motors when you're in this launch mode?
It will. That's part of the roadmap. They'll be bringing that in. We haven't seen a reason to do that for the tri-motor yet.
Okay.
When we do, and it's a colder ambient.
And with quad, you will need to, because that's going to stress the battery. Yep. Okay, very cool. But yeah, I mean, our temperatures are all looking pretty good at the moment now anyway. But I'm loving this. This is pretty cool. And, you know, definitely get the wheel dead straight. And then you basically go hard on the brake, floor it with the right, and then you would pop off. And then once it gives you the release. That's sick. That's awesome. Nice work. Guys, you joined me with my friend Brian Gase. Brian, you've been in videos on the channel before, so welcome back.
Welcome. Thanks for having me back. As Kyle said, really excited about what we have. And for most of you that will see this, it does look very similar. The lights are different from the exterior. There are some new exterior colors. Got some changes with the badging, but we're standing in front of a dual performance max pack R1S. And if you look at it and you think, okay, it's the same car. The biggest way to change, see it aesthetically is the mirrors. There's cameras at different spots. There's no longer a camera back here. Part of our much better camera and Rivian autonomous platform suite. But the other thing, the body is actually different materials. We simplified the build process. We reduced joining in our factory. We made this easier to manufacture, higher quality, and you can feel it on the road. The body is stiffer. It is quieter. As an owner of an R1S, it is smoother on roads. So hard to appreciate some of those small little things. Some of the small stuff you will notice as well when you get in: heated third row seats, heated side mirrors, and it's all controlled by an updated UI. It's really got some great cell shading through drive modes. All the graphics and layout are just another evolution. And even hearing back from customers, we integrated interior lights, giving you options to change through a few different things that between the sound system, the connectivity, the new body structure. But above all that, the thing we're the most proud of is that it is a completely vertically integrated new technology launch of our product. There is more unique in the ECUs, the harnesses, the 44 pounds of wiring you've pulled out from our Gen 1 vehicles. And what it allows us to do is have control as Rivian of our software stack. Send OTAs, continue building out software, but we went to a zonal architecture where we've got an east to west and a south zone controller connected through Ethernet. A whole bunch of really cool technical things where you can process 250 trillion communications per second on our boards. It's nerdy cool, and as an owner, it gives you better picture, better driving capability, and it's a really great second evolution of our product.
So let's come up front. I want to go through some of the changes. The light bar is different now.
Yes. Yeah, so it's the same shape inside of the front fascia and the hood. But what you see is you get a more kind of sleek, lean main beam. You've got dynamic bending lights when you're steering. And
that's right. They kind of turn, but they don't physically turn, right? It's just unlocking more pixels in the headlight.
Yep, and we'll show you that when we can do some low speed. You have to be moving to actuate that. And then underneath here, and you have to zoom in to see it in this parking garage light we're in, but there are 10, 20, 30, 40% increments. So not only do we have RGB lighting up front, we can do several colors, but your charge indicator now scrolls across and shows status. And so some of those just little subtle refinements. We also, this one doesn't have it, but we have a dark package on the exterior. So you'll see a few pictures of that with the dark out. I know a lot of customers did this to the upper chrome.
Yeah, this like sort of forehead looking thing. I mean, that was always the way to spot an R1S coming up towards you.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a little harder. Now you'll still just have to look at the headlights.
Yeah.
Underneath the hood, with our new heat pump system.
Dude, the turn signals are down here now. What the heck?
Oh yeah, well sure. So one of the biggest things for everybody that turns their headlights on and you see that iconic beam dimming when your turn signal comes on, it's no longer in the main beam, it is now separate down here.
Right, so, and it means the fog light's been removed, but it's been enhanced with brighter lights.
Yes.
Okay, and this is all different.
I'll grab my bag out of here, and what you'll notice is we've got little storage. The towels are, because it was raining and colors show better on film.
Yeah.
If we lift this up, now we have storage underneath. Some of our R1S accessories. Still the charger that comes with vehicle.
Yep.
And then this has both a felt-sided mat as well as a nicer, durable rubberized surface.
Very cool. And any changes to like the 12-volt systems on the vehicle? Because you used to have the dual batteries up there.
Yes. So now we did revise that. We've simplified the architecture. We reduced content and reduced weight. Still in the same position, but the team did a tremendous job from the launch of R1T and R1S as our Gen 1 product. They've spent the last 2.5 years making this a extremely lean, simple, more robust system.
Yeah, it just seems like take all the learnings from the early car, how hard they were to build, or I don't know, but then just like dial it up.
The team literally walked the factory. They worked with service. The easiest connection to get right is the one you don't have to make. And so going into the factory and saying, how do we take our entire instrument panel dash harness out of the vehicle and make sure that we're doing it in a way that is still easily serviceable. So our battery pack, easier to service. You don't have to drop it to get access to some of the high voltage controllers. There's a lot of those things that you might not see as a customer, but help us from a service side, which you all will experience.
Yeah, totally. So there's some new wheel designs. I'll walk everyone through those. I talked to some suspension experts. I'll walk everyone through that. But then like little stuff that I didn't totally notice until I first grabbed the door handle. It's not totally apparent, but it's electronic.
Yes. Yeah, you can see it on the inside, but one of the things you'll get, and it's actually very responsive.
Yeah,
so
dude, that's
I don't know,
fast.
that was not slowed down for film, but from a release perspective, it's still quick. And on the front, you just still have the emergency release handle, but the electronic release latch is right there.
And one thing I learned is that the rear emergency release is behind this panel.
Yeah, so it's much more of a service. So if you think about the situations you could get into, making sure you can always get access to one of the front doors, but this panel comes off and there is a little pull cable nested inside of it.
Yeah, just nice for viewers to know, like if for whatever reason they're modifying their R1s, the panels, the latches behind there. Yep. But little things have been changed as well, where you have like these, oh, this one doesn't really have the plaid on the inside of it.
Yeah, so this is our base interior, and so you'll see these seats will look very much like the Gen 1 products. In the premium, you've got a cloth back, you've got plaid on the mats and some stitching in here. Taking those little things and taking it to a level that is just more premium. It's the space you spend a lot of time in, and even down to the instrument panel, we've got some new shades of wood. We've got a couple new colors as well. I think you guys are gonna be really excited to see some of the details and all that.
Here, really, it looks the same other than the little segments in the lights. Am I missing anything?
No, the badge still ties in with the dual motor, and you'll see this in the quad. We've got our friendly little gear guard with his hair blown backwards because it's the fast vehicle. But everything else back here is the same as you remember, with the exception of some of those light changes.
I think a lot of people in the forum didn't realize you were going to do a quad. I think they were thinking Tri was going to be the top.
Well, you've always got to surprise people with a few things. We did it in Laguna, and we want to keep giving people something to be excited about.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
But you can see still same storage back here. We've still got the onboard functionality.
Yep, and that's the same onboard inverter as the outgoing vehicle.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. I would have loved to see 240 volt power in this thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll wait for the next refresh.
Keep some surprises.
Yeah, so I think overall, I think the general consensus is it's very minor styling changes. Of course, from a manufacturability standpoint, it's going to be easier and cheaper. As a consumer, that doesn't really matter to me. As an investor, which I'm not, but that is something that could be attractive to them. And of course, is very attractive to have high quality, less rattles, stuff like that. So I'm excited about all of those changes. But then it's also the unlocking of the capability of that tri-motor system, the efficiency that you gain there, because you can get almost all the performance of the outgoing quad, but with the same efficiency as the dual motor, pretty much.
It's a very sweet spot of, and we have also done this with the tires. And so not having the 21s, but having a more aerodynamically efficient tire, but also something that has the same performance. We've got really a nice combination that's learned from everything we've done over the last several years with the 100,000 vehicles we have on the road. You mentioned the subtlety on the design side. From a color, material, and finish, definitely some changes. The other thing that is pretty remarkably different, I actually am a really fan of it because it's got a great color, is on the center screen. We'll show you some of the cell shading, get into that in detail, but I don't want to downplay Jeff and his team's work on keeping the language Rivian, but also modifying it to be a next generation of product.
Totally. Well, congratulations to everything you guys have done so far. Overall, just is like you made the best better. That's pretty cool, dude.
That's if there's one thing I could be proud of, it's that statement. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Of course. Well, I hope the viewers enjoy the rest of the video, but Brian, I can't thank you enough for the tour, the quick overview
of all the screens we have today in our current Gen 1 vehicles. This includes our mobile app and also the vehicle. This doesn't include the website, but all of those things are connected. And this is just a small snippet of that. I'm just going to click between the two of them. So these are all the updates we did to the ones that we have today. So you can see there's big changes on all of them. We just click between them. You can see some of them are just aesthetic changes, but a lot of functionality changes there. So one of the key things we started with is what you think is like, all right, well, type. Type has a big impact on the overall feeling of the vehicle, and not just the vehicle. We want to make sure as we're building our brand recognition that that brand recognition stems across from not only our vehicle, but our mobile app, the font you see in our spaces, the things you get in printouts, that it's all cohesive and connected. But particularly in a vehicle, one area that I think provides a lot of personality is a speedometer, and that means what do your numerals look like? I equate this to a face of a watch. You can change the numerals on a watch and it can look like it completely looks sporty, it can look classic, really just by changing what the numerals look like. So on the left here, you can see our previous font, and on the right here, you can see our new one. And while we've all done some other updates as well there to make things a little simpler, gone are the vignettes that we had in the past and making things a little bit cleaner, a little bit crisper. But you can see just by looking at the font there, how different it makes the interior feel. A big area we spent a lot of time on was drive modes. And the fun part about drive modes for us was thinking about how could we redesign our drive mode experience. And if you look at today, and not only our current vehicles, but vehicles out in the market, if there's a representation of the vehicle, it's almost always rendered in something as realistic as possible. When we started to think about that, and you think about you sitting inside the vehicle, do you really need an exact replica of the vehicle you're sitting inside of? Or is this an area we could have a little bit more fun with? So we worked with our software engineers to create a new style in a world, we like to call it, that was powered by Unreal. And for some of you that are familiar with, you can see the evolution of our drive mode. So when we first launched R1 in 2021, it was the one all the way to the left. We made a interim update where we added some of the widgets and some additional functionality. And as you can see all the way to the right is our new drive mode screens. So the new illustrative style that we created was something that wanted to pay homage to the old cartoons of the past, little animated films that were drawn through nice, tight, heavy outline work, but with something we call cell shading, which is that's how it was done in the past. You'd put it in a cell, you'd color it, and that's how you would add color to something. But how did we get there? We started combining a bunch of work from many of our different designers in the studio and just had a little bit of a sketch list. So it's like, how would we as Rivian, how would we illustrate our vehicles in our car in a way that's fun, approachable, and unique to us? This is the ones with one of our designers, Juliana Cho, that came up with this illustrative style that we really liked. We liked that it was a combination of both fun, energetic, big blocks of color, but it blended with some of our 2D, more technical drawings that we have within the vehicle, so we could make sure our illustrative styles throughout the vehicle looked cohesive. We did not want everything to be consistent, but a little bit more cohesive. Oddly enough, which is kind of funny, the image up on the right there with the red R1T, that's actually hanging in RJ's house. So part of that was we wanted to make sure that every drive mode, while it was stuck in not stuck, but sorry, stationary, it was something that looked like a piece of artwork you'd want to hang on your wall. So as I mentioned, the illustrative style was something that we combined both fun and technical elements, and now we had to translate this into 3D. So to translate in 3D, we had to obviously render the vehicle in multiple views. We had to do it in every single color. Not only every single color, but every wheel, every different tire configuration, whether you have the dark trim, whether you have the light trim. And this is something that was important to us to make sure that when you're in the vehicle that's on the screen matches the vehicle that you own. But we also had to design the world that it exists in. So for every drive mode, there's a different world to communicate what drive mode you're in. And that means anything from this: what does shrubbery look like? What does a mountain look like? How do we illustrate the ground? How do we illustrate the sun? How do we illustrate the sky? So this was something that was completely new that we haven't done before. So we were inventing a lot of processes along the way, figuring out how are we going to solve this in something that is a 3D object that needs to look like it was drawn by 2D. And that's actually a lot more difficult than you'd think it would be. It's actually easier to make something look realistic in a 3D tool than it is to make it look like a sketch. And this only happened because of a close collaboration with our software teams. And we really bounced ideas off each other. And because of that, we were able to get to a really cool solution that I hope you guys all enjoy. This is just one snippet of a screenshot of the Unreal, and you can see that there's a bunch of different rigs that have to go into each drive mode to create this. So there's a lot of technical work for us to get there, but it was really fun to watch this world come together. So this is something you guys will see tomorrow, hopefully, as you guys get to play around with the screens. So this is just a snippet of all the different drive modes sort of blending together. There's day modes, dark modes kind of mixed in here. But this just shows you no matter what drive mode you're in, it'll seamlessly blend from one world to another. And hopefully just by looking at these, you know what drive mode that they're trying to describe. So even when you look at these two, we wanted to make sure that even when the images were static and you were in your drive mode, that we still had little moments of fun. So in our camp mode, for example, which you'll see here in a second, we want little micro animation. So whether it's little swaying of the trees, or you see the little bushes, or at night we have little fireflies coming up, something that even just to let you know that this is a 3D object and you can interface with it. Sorry. And one other thing to note is, if we encourage you guys to play around with this tomorrow, if you put 2 fingers on the screen and just move the screen, you basically be able to see that the vehicle is a 3D object and you can rotate around that. But we couldn't forget our buddy Gear Guard. So as you guys know, Gear Guard today, Gear Guard's got a redo. He's got a little bit of a makeover. So as you know, he's our friendly character that comes up and lets you know that the vehicle's being watched in a friendly, inviting way. Nothing different from how we like to approach all of our customers. And then also in our pet mode. So one other area that I'll talk a little bit about is our headlights. So in the headlights, we not only updated them from a visual perspective, you can see that there's a lot more dimensionality in the lamps. There's a lot more attention to the detail in there. We wanted them to feel a little bit more three-dimensional, a little bit more jewel-like, both when they're on and when they're off. So if you look at them compared today, there's a lot more dimensionality in them, as you can see inside the lens. And we did a lot of layering on the inside of it to really make it feel jewel-like. Even the stadium shape has been changed on the inside, but it is still distinctly Rivian. We love the face, the identity that we've created, and we don't have any intention of moving away from that. Hopefully you guys have seen our R2 and R3, just letting us know it's like, hey, it's really hard to come up with something that is simple, easy to describe, and iconic, and we're happy we have it, and we don't want to walk away from that. But with that too, we wanted to not only change the visual appearance of them, but this is also an opportunity to add some additional functionality. I'll talk about a little bit of it here, and then we'll go see a demo that Wassym will help me out with. But on the bottom here, we have our charge indicator has now been located to the lower portion of the lamps. And as you guys might know today, when you plug the vehicle in and the vehicle's charging, you get some glowing green light that's evenly lit that pulses. But we wanted to take it one step further and add some additional functionality to it to give you the state of charge. So there's actually 10 individual segments there. So each segment gives you 10%, all the way to 100, obviously. And we have a little micro animation, which we'll show in a second, that shows that. But those lamps are also RGB. So with that, we were able to do some additional functionality, which we'll share over there, is some accent lighting that we built into it. Another thing that I want to talk a little bit about on the lights too is we have additional functionality in our low beams and high beams. So we have adaptive high beams. So the adaptive high beams are something that they will be coming later. So we already have what the vehicle will launch with dynamic lights. So as you know, as you're turning the corner, the lights will illuminate. But we also have adaptive high beams that are coming. So what that means is while a vehicle is coming towards you, you've got a matrix headlight system. And for those of you know that system, it's not been legal in the US for a long time. Now it's finally legal, and we're just going through the final certification to get it in there. But essentially what that does is if there's a vehicle coming to you on oncoming traffic, there's a segment of LEDs that the vehicle senses when it sees the light, and it shuts that segment of LEDs off. So you'll still get the full flood of light you normally would with your high beams on, but you won't be blinding oncoming traffic. And that's the same technology that does the dynamic light beam. So when you're turning into a corner, the lights are not actually turning. It's just a different set of LEDs that is being projected into a different direction. So the one feature that we have that I'll show you here in person is our roadside lighting. So say you pull up to the side of the road, or you're in the middle of an intersection, you put your hazards on. You could put these lights on here, and this segment's turned to amber, and this was basically showing you to push around traffic. This is if you want vehicles to go on either side of you, and then of course, if you want vehicles to pass you on the right side. And these are symmetric front and back. They do both. Another thing that we heard a lot of customers on in terms of lighting was with our Easter eggs, as you guys know, and you can expect the same for our headlights. I'm not saying anything now, but with our Halloween mode, we like to have fun. We like to do little creative things to sort of express our brand and do it in a fun way that we can update. And we're always doing these little accent lightings in the interior. We got a lot of feedback from customers like, Rivian, why can't I change the interior colors? So we listened, but we still wanted to be curated. So the colors that we have were something that we really went down and selected and provided little moods, little accent lighting that adjust and basically made sure that every color that we have in there works well with our interior trims. So when you go into your accent lighting, I encourage you guys to play with this. But you can turn the noise off, but it was something we wanted to kind of illustrate the overall mood and feeling of it. So as you flip through these different ones, hopefully the sound also helps you indicate like the type of mood that you're setting inside of there to change the lights.
Well, thank you guys for joining me on the full tour of Rivian. This video has to go up right now, so there's more to say. The one thing I left out, there was a couple things. It has like an electrochromatic roof. I didn't show it. I totally should have. I experienced it. It was cool. It like dims and gets brighter. I think it might be an option. I didn't go nearly as deep in the driver assistance stuff as I wanted to. The ADAS system really needs a lot of work, but the hardware is in there that should just make this thing rip. And with over-the-air updates get really improved. Lane changes are really nice. I don't know if the previous R1 will get lane changes, but at least the previous R1 will get the cameras, just with lower quality. I should also mention that to activate the driver assistance system, you pull back on the shifter rather than down. So in the previous R1, you would pull down twice to activate it, kind of like autopilot. This one, you now pull the shifter back towards you and you push away to cancel. I think it's nice. It also shows a 360-degree view cars around you. And really the last point is I just can't stress enough how much they've dialed in the car. It's quieter. The R1S especially rides so much better. R1T, no one will probably notice a difference. Am I going to upgrade? Probably not. I'll have to wait till the new quad motor comes out. Really looking forward to trying that sometime early next year. But there we go. That's the new Rivian. A long video. A lot of redundant information. Sorry, I can feel the complaints. But hopefully you guys learned as much as I did about the new Peregrine Generation 2 R1T and R1S. Big props to Rivian for redoing the entire electrical architecture. Really going super deep and super nerdy with this refresh. It's a really impressive, thorough, deep redoing of the car, if you will. And the only thing I really wish it had was more capacity, 180 to 200 kilowatt hour battery pack, and of course, much faster charging with high voltage. Something to go after that Silverado EV. But if they're not going to go there, and if you don't really need a truck for that kind of use case like I do, well, damn, they've just knocked it out of the park. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on another one again soon. Bye-bye.